Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the top 4 lists from a recent in-person tournament for the new Lorcana set. We are going to be checking them out now on mushureport.com. Make sure to check out the site. It's very useful to get hold of some deck lists and tournament reports and so on. Let's take a look at the first list. It is Ruby Amethyst. Very similar to the set 2 list. You know, you can see the basic package, of course, in there with all the bounces from the Mims and the Merlins, even the 1-drop openings as well. But we will highlight the differences here. While it's still got Be Prepared and Teeth and Ambitions and Friends on the Other Side for the sort of songs and spells, but the big differences really are the Prince Eric starting off. Only 2 of them in this list, as it is an uninkable, so I think that's why that's probably happened. But very awkward character to deal with. I've run into a list similar to this, if not identical, over the last few days on Pixelborn, and it's a really tricky card to deal with because if you try and ignore it, one, your opponent can probably trade it away anyway, but also it just starts questing for 2, so it might race you anyway. And whenever you do get rid of it, or whenever it's banished, obviously there are other ways to get rid of it that aren't technically banishing, but most of the time you are going to banish it. It's really painful because they can just banish one of your characters. So really strong card in there as a 2 of. Of course, we see the Maui along next. A card, I think Maui's going nowhere. If you're playing Ruby, you need a very good excuse not to play Maui. But then we get to Jim Hawkins, a card I think everyone was excited about coming into set 3 because it's ticking a lot of boxes. It quests for 2, it's inkable, it's that 5-cost inkable, and it has a very powerful effect. It basically lets you play a location you have in hand for free at the same time you play Jim, and he can move there. So very powerful indeed to start sort of cheating out those locations. And if you look at the 2 locations that are here at 7 and 8 health, you suddenly put in just tons, 11, 12 health on the board with 1 card, which can be very strong. We'll get to the locations in a minute though. To round out the characters in the list that are new as well, Madame Medusa, another uninkable card, as a 3 of in this list. Not really crazy stat line or inkable, or ink values or law values, sorry. But its ability is very strong. You can just nope a card that has 3 power or less, and that is just really good. Because even if you look at this list, if you look at a lot of deck lists, there aren't, or at least there are a lot of cards that are impactful to the game that have 3 or less attack. So it's really powerful card. Only 3 of, again, I think that's to keep the uninkables in check with this list, but still pretty cool, pretty powerful overall. Finally, to round out the list, of course, we see the Be Prepareds there, but it is the locations. The Queen's Castle, I feels like, is the all-rounder location of the set. 4-cost, inkable, good health on 7, gains 2 lore per turn, and for every character that's there, you can draw an additional card at the start of your turn. So really powerful overall. This is probably the main target for Jim, honestly. And then the backup is the 2 of RLS Legacy, which can be powerful as well. It's expensive to get your first card there, free if it's Jim though. But as in if Jim summons it, of course. But once it's there, it gets cheaper, and also there's just giving your cards evasive can actually just win you games anyway. So yeah, really cool list. It's a lot of what we've seen before, but with some enhancements from set 3. Moving on to the next list, and closest to the list I played in the last tournament I played in set 2, which is the Lemon Lime Mufasa. Excuse me. Some of these cards you'll see and get used to, of course, in the Lemon and Lime. The Pain and Panic combo are there. We've got obviously the Mufasa with some of the highlights from the Emerald with like Genie, Tinkerbell, Ray in there as well, but some of the newer additions as well to the list. So the 2-drop Ursula, very powerful. Like, it's not questing for a lot. It's not going to stick around too long, although it can help some songs, which we'll get to later on. But the ability to just look at your opponent's hand, one, to just get that information is huge, but then also so many decks right now are playing songs and they're hyper impactful. So being able to just discard a song and just play a card and just look at the hand as well, super powerful. If anything, I'm surprised there's only 2 of them here, but maybe that's more of a meta call than anything else. We do see the Piglet there as well. If you have two more other characters in play, two or more, sorry, other characters in play, Piglet gets +2 lore, so again, high sort of questing value. Pluto, if you're playing Amber and you don't play Pluto in your list, the one drop obviously, you need to really ask yourself why. And I'm not saying it's always correct, but Pluto is powerful enough to really, you need a good think about whether you want to, if there's a reason to not play it. Whether that's to ramp out bigger cards or more expensive cards, or whether it's to even help just splurge out even more of your hand, right? If you want a hand dump, but maybe not in this list, obviously, but if you want a hand dump for, say, a whole new world and just being able to be really aggressive, Pluto kind of does it all, honestly. We are going to see the Cloud Kicker as well, a card, even though it's only a 2 of in this list, mainly because it's a Mufasa list. I imagine you want to keep the low costs a little bit lower, but Kit, extremely powerful, and we'll get to a little bit more Kit stuff later on in this video. But Kit, really powerful, inkable 3-drop. Yes, it's a 2/2. Yes, he only quests for 1, but he can bounce so many great targets. I played against this recently, not this list, but the list we'll check out later, against my friend Kawa. And I was playing Aerial, getting a song, and then they just bounced the aerial, and it's like, yeah, you might think that's high value, but high value doesn't help me in the immediate time trying to start to fight back. So we'll get into Kit a little bit later, but a card I like a lot. We do have obviously the Mufasa, the Ray, the Perdita is going to help as well as pulls from Mufasa, or just help him with that value in general. Genie for the sort of mainly for late game bounce or surprise factor bounce when you get it from Mufasa. Stitch in there as usual, and then we get some of the spicy choices. The Shift Pluto, Super Pluto, if you want to call him that, with the cape. Very, very powerful. Whether you end up shifting or just get him out of Mufasa, if you can get him on board early-ish, it's really strong. It's actually really difficult to deal with. 8 health, 3 attack means it's going to trade quite well versus a lot of the early game. And he heals, and he has Bodyguard, and he quests for 2. So you could just start questing and say, all my other stuff's pretty protected. Because as I said, unless he's bounced or like killed with like a Dragonfire effect or something, 8 is a very big number. So really powerful. We have Dr. Facilier there as well as an evasive tool. Very high cost, but again, inkable. And if he does hit the board, he quests for 3 and also causes a bit of havoc with your opponent. Chernobog in there, I think a fan favorite of this set so far, and it's a bit of a double whammy in this deck. On one hand, yep, you can come out of Mufasa, great, you've got a 9/9 that quests for 3, which is very powerful, very similar to Pluto, except quests for more and deals way more damage. And even if you don't get him out of Mufasa, because as you can obviously see, this is a very character-heavy deck, as turns go on, Chernobog could potentially get very cheap very quick, because effectively every turn you're playing cards, you're playing characters. And then if they aren't in the discard pile, making Chernobog cheaper, that's because they're still on the board. And if they're on the board still after, like, say, 4 or 5 turns, you're probably winning if none of your stuff's getting killed. So Chernobog, really cool card. And then to round out the deck is the Bare Necessities. Even though this is an extremely character-heavy deck, and a lot of decks that do Mufasa only play characters, I don't mind this because, one, it's only 2 cards that aren't characters, and also it the cards effect itself, very similar to Ursula, just gives you that power play of not only looking at your opponent's hand, also being able to impact it as well. And also, Bare Necessities actually discards a non-character card of your choice, so it can hit not only songs but other actions as well, but also locations. So Bare Necessities, pretty nice, pretty cool list overall. Moving on to the next one, which is going to be the Amber Steel Flute. Again, just Amber Steel songs, very similar to what we've seen from set 1 and 2, but with these new additions. So as I said here, a lot of the cards you will recognize, there's the Cinderellas, the Queens, the Ariels, Rapunzel, sort of the usual suspects, but some of the new additions are very, very good. Starting off with the Robin Hood combo, the 1-drop Robin Hood, just help out early game, but also shifting Robin on 3 cements you so well, especially in those aggro matchups, because suddenly your Robin's a 3/6 that can not only start singing 5-cost songs or less, whether it's Along Came Zeus, Grab Your Swords, Whole New World from turn 3 onwards if you want. If you don't do that, you can just start trading, gaining lore, or even just questing for 2, and if he does die in a challenge, you draw a card. So the shifted Robin Hood, very, very powerful overall. We then have Mr. Smee that I know a lot of people say is just like one of the best cards in the set, and so far I'm struggling to disagree. You've got the double whammy of it's a inkable 2-drop that's a 3/3, which is very strong, and you quest for 2, so you can help with that race scenario. But also, even though he can damage himself, it's just an extra target for potential Rapunzel to hit on those early curves. So pretty interesting overall. Um, there's the one Cinderella there. I'm guessing just for surprise factor of saying, okay, this 1-drop Cinderella's sitting around. Boom, there's a big one. Very difficult to deal with for certain decks. I imagine it also might be there for the mirror, or at least the steel side of any mirror, because the resist makes steel really struggle to actually do. You see the song sort of package come out here. It's a sort of wider spread of songs with 2 Be Our Guest to help fishing, 1 World's Greatest Criminal Mind, I imagine for like Mufasa decks, for a Chernobog, something really annoying to deal with. Strength of Rage and Fire, of course, Storm Rage on, we know those. Along Came Zeus, extremely powerful, just high damage, just nope card. 4 Whole New Worlds, 2 Grabby Swords, and then of course the Flutes. And then there's also the bios as well, just as a little bit extra to help out with some of that draw. And finally, probably my favorite list, because it's very similar to a list I posted a few days ago that I made building up to set 3 release when I was playing on Pixelborn, is the Amethyst Emerald. This is like bounce discard. I'm not sure if discard is like correct way to name this deck. It's probably more like bounce aggro, or like weirdly enough aggro control, and I'll explain why. So you have the card draw package with the Maleficents, the Merlin Rabbits, the bounces in there with the Mims, of course, friends on the other side, and so on. But also mixed in with that Amethyst, sort of the Amethyst package, I would probably say, is this Emerald group of Cursed Merfolk, which can, yep, the Cursed Merfolk and the Flynn is the discard bit, I guess, with the Ursula, so it kind of makes sense. I just, when I think of discard, I more think of the sort of forced hard discard. But you push Law with the Cursed Merfolk, the Flynn, and so on, and then you back that tempo early game up with Ursula, 2-drop Ursula to get rid of any songs that might cause a problem, and just to look at the hand anyway, so you can play around stuff. But also then you have Kit Cloud Kicker, who bounce these early cards. So you might play a Cursed Merfolk, they play, you know, a 2-drop, and then you can play Kit on 3 and then just bounce that away, and suddenly the trades get awkward. And then you could bounce Kit with a Mim and then Kit something again. So it gets really tricky for your opponent to stick things long enough to have an impact in that early game. Next up, of course, we have the legendary Ursula, the singer, where you can sing all of these songs twice. And it's pretty incredible, honestly. I've been playing a deck again similar to this, where, yeah, the backbone of it is you've got Strike a Good Match to help out with just some card draw emergency if you need it, but really you're looking at friends on the other side. You sing this after you've played the Ursula, it draws 4 cards for 1 song, incredible. And then Mother Knows Best to double bounce 2 of your opponent's cards is huge. So this list is, I think this as an archetype is really going to stick around because it's aggressive, but it doesn't feel as all in as a lot of aggro decks because you have an obscene level of card draw. You have ways to actually disrupt your opponent. And even if your opponent has good starts, you've got ways to fight back with like Kit. You've got Madam in Fox, obviously with the 2 Merlin crabs as well. And you have the Mother Knows Best to bounce. So with a couple of G's there on the top end. Yeah, really strong list overall. And I think all 4 lists have been really cool to look at, and checking out these different takes on the early meta of Into the Inklands. So yeah, let me know what you think of these lists. Let me know if you have any cool ideas or if you've been playing or testing some of these. And yeah, thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you guys next time.